The Hansi Flick era has begun.
With a cross, Lewandowski with a header, it's 2-0. Brother Lewandowski has scored 2 goals in 2 minutes. And into the roof of the net.
The new Barcelona side looks scary under the German manager, dominating teams in ways that we haven't seen since Pep Guardiola. Yamal, Pedri, Rafinha, Lewandowski, every player has improved under Flick, and their direct approach has led to goal after goal. From a manager who felt that Barcelona could not compete with Real Madrid to one with a no-excuse mentality, how exactly has Flick been able to get such better results while working with the exact same players that Xavi had? Flick caused Barca fans one of their most bitter memories, but is now helping rebuild the club. In fact, Barca is now dominating teams with the same style that caused the worst defeat in the club's history. The fact that Flick has been able to instill his philosophy onto the team so quickly is so impressive. Usually, managers need some time to get their instructions to the players, but Barca have immediately understood how to play Flick's 4-2-3-1 system. So what is the style? Well, historically, Barca has always had a commitment to possession-based football that emphasized short, quick passing. Xavi, Cruyff, Pep all build their systems around the principles of tiki-taka. Flick still uses a lot of the same principles. I mean, the positional fluidity of his teams is actually very much the total football that Cruyff had in mind.
I study a lot of things about the Netherlands football school and there's also Johan Cruyff.
Barca still keep possession and dictate the tempo of matches. But with Flick, there is less focus on control through possession, but rather an emphasis on direct vertical progression and relentless counter-pressing.
Thing is here, a little bit they want to play. I'm also like that they focus a little bit more to score goals.
Flick's high-intensity gegenpressing is actually a very popular style. It's how Klopp's Liverpool operated. It allows you to hit teams quickly in transition and expose the space behind the opposition. It's very different from Xavi's style, which made Barcelona too predictable, as they made simple passes right in front of the opponent, making it easier for the opposition to park the bus. When you keep playing the same low-risk passes, it's very easy to predict the pattern of play. Flick, on the other hand, has given the team the complete freedom to be positionally fluid.
I can say we want to play always, we want to be always active, you know? This is for me very important.
By allowing the players to intelligently move out of their designated zones and switch roles on the fly, it makes them way tougher to defend. It creates unpredictability and exploits the gaps in the opposition defense. Wingers like Rafinha and Yamal can move in centrally, operating as either an inside forward or a secondary playmaker to open up more space for the fullbacks to get forward. This kind of freedom allows Barcelona to overload in specific areas of the pitch, making it much harder for the opponent to defend. The numerical advantages in these areas draws the defenders out of formation and creates pocket of space for Barca's most technical players like Pedri and Yamal. It also makes it a lot easier to counter-press if you lose the ball. This is also a big reason why Flick wants his double pivot in midfield to be positioned vertically rather than right next to each other. Flick wants one of them to play deeper just ahead of the defense. Usually this player is Casado, and the other is slightly more advanced, in this case Pedri. This layout creates multiple passing lanes because the deeper pivot can receive quick passes from the back line, while the higher pivot can receive more progressive passes to go forward quickly. Flick's double pivot system works much better than Xavi's flat 4-3-3, which operated with a sole holding midfielder. In the 2023 season, the 4-3-3 worked for Xavi because Busquets was still in the squad. When you have the greatest center defensive mid of all time, it makes the system a lot easier. But when he left, there was no like-for-like replacement. There still isn't a replacement. That's why Flick operates with a system where both holding midfielders can do a little bit of everything. Initially, the partnership of Pedri and Bernal was working perfectly. Pedri had the freedom to get forward, while Bernal was the one sitting deeper. Bernal's injury made the situation a lot more complicated, but Flick had full faith in Casado. The 21-year-old is perfect for the system. He's good on the ball, he has a high footballing IQ like all La Masia graduates, and he's a workhorse off the ball. He's one of those players that presses for the entire 90 minutes. When you have a player that covers ground so nicely, it makes pressing a lot easier. Casado is also well aware of his limitations. He knows when he has to play the simple passes and when he can afford to be a little riskier. Flick still understands the tradition of tiki-taka and possession buildup at Barcelona. He hasn't abandoned it by any means, he just incorporated more verticality and higher risk passes in the buildup to get forward quicker. Barca still play out of the back, but now the players are instructed to be way more direct. The goal is to progress to the final third as quickly as possible. It's a huge change of pace from the side-to-side passing that we saw under Xavi. Instead of having the players right next to each other, Flick has the squad spread apart to make the pitch as big as possible. This creates more space, making it much harder for the opponent to easily defend them. Think about it, when the players are right next to each other, one defender can eliminate 2 players from the passage of play just by standing there. As well, now instead of just holding possession for possession's sake, each pass has a meaning behind it. It's riskier, mistakes can easily lead to goals, but when you have the quality of players like Cubarsí and Inigo Martinez who can play those long passes that exploit the open spaces behind the opposition, it makes the style easier to do. Xavi transitioned Cubarsí into the first team, and Flick is still using him as his talents are so obvious. There aren't many ball-playing center backs like him, let alone players that are that young. I know attacking players are more exciting, but Cubarsí is phenomenal. The center back position is usually a position where players get better with age as they develop more physically and develop more maturity, yet Cubarsí is already this good and he's still a teenager. You see, ball-playing center backs are essential to Flick's build-up. They have to not only be able to ping long passes, but they also have to be able to be comfortable on the ball. At times, the 2 center backs are the only players back, so if they get pressed, they have to be able to find a way out. To counter against the press, Flick has his 2 center backs get wider and he essentially splits them, creating more space, making it much harder for the opposition to trap Barcelona players in central areas. This is also usually when the Barca fullbacks come to help. When under high pressure, one fullback, usually whoever is on the side of the ball, drops to form a temporary back 3 to give some stability in possession. This also allows the fullback on the opposite side to remain higher and wider, creating space to break into for when there's a switch in play. Because this sort of buildup is so asymmetrical and fluid, it makes it really difficult to press against. While Flick has improved a lot of things tactically, he has also greatly improved the team's mentality. Despite having so many injuries throughout the season, he makes no excuses. You can see it in his body language and his interviews. He is never satisfied. When Barca was winning 7-0, he was pushing the team to keep scoring to make it 8. Unlike Xavi, who publicly declared that the team isn't good enough, Flick made it clear that he will work with what he has, and that the squad is capable of fighting in every single competition. It might just seem like words, but language is essential when you're managing the team's mentality. When your manager thinks you can win and compete, so do the players. When the manager thinks you can't, that translates over to the guys on the pitch. That belief from the manager can be seen in Barca's style of play. The team doesn't stop running from the first to the last minute of the match. In fact, every single player at the club has improved due to Flick. Flick clearly saw the potential in the squad because despite the injuries and the lack of activity in the transfer market, Barca still looks amazing.
I have to say thank you to La Masia because how they develop the player, it's unbelievable. And this quality they give us, it's really great.
Inigo Martinez went from a player at the end of the bench, a signing that was completely questioned, to starting week in, week out. Him and Cubarsí have been able to execute the high defensive line to perfection. It's not easy to do. It's a high risk, high reward system, and these guys went to the Bernabeu and did it against the fastest players in the world. Rafinha has been unbelievable. He was pretty good under Xavi too. He got 10 goals and 13 assists in a very inconsistent Barca side while dealing with injuries, but under Flick, he has gotten even better. Playing either as a left wing or in the number 10 role, he's been getting goals and assists for fun. What's great about Rafinha is he has the speed and movement to get him behind for those direct passes from the build-up, but he can also come in the middle and help create overloads. Combine his ability on the ball with his fantastic work rate, and honestly, the Brazilian was custom made for Flick. Very deserving of the captain's armband. This guy bleeds Blaugrana. Lewandowski has been rejuvenated under Flick, and that shouldn't come to anyone's surprise. Lua's best ever season came while playing for Flick. He is scoring for fun as he operates as the complete forward up top. Flick has Lua playing exactly where he should be, in and around the box. His role is to exploit the spaces created by Flick's system, then use his tactical intelligence and finishing to score goals. He still does drop deep to link up with the build-up at times, but his main goal is to put the ball in the back of the net. His longevity is honestly greatly underappreciated when we're discussing players who have aged well. He is still scoring like he's 28 years old. Like whenever we talk about players that age like fine wine, people talk about Modric, people talk about Cristiano Ronaldo, Lewandowski deserves to be in that conversation. It's actually hard to understand why other clubs weren't doing everything they can to get Hansi Flick. We're talking about the only manager other than Pep Guardiola to win a sextuple. I think his stint with the German national team made a lot of people forget just how dominant he was as Bayern's manager. He was also Joachim Löw's assistant manager when Germany won the World Cup. What he did in 2020, most managers dream of doing something like that. He led Bayern to win the Continental treble by winning the Bundesliga, DFB Pokal, and the Champions League. He won the UEFA Men's Coach of the Year award. Then the next season, Bayern clinched the 2020 UEFA Super Cup against Sevilla and also won the Club World Cup in February of 2021. So to most people, it shouldn't be a surprise that Flick's Barca looks way better than Xavi's. I mean, Flick is someone who has a ton of experience under his belt, and Xavi was in his first real managerial job. Flick's tactical overhaul really represents a modern revolution of Barca's playstyle. It's a blend of the total football that Cruyff spoke about along with Flick's own ideologies. Barcelona still hold the ball and dominate you in possession, but can now punish you in transition. Flick has crafted a Barcelona team that is unpredictable and relentless in their pursuit of goals. It's a style that isn't just about winning, it's about redefining what a Barcelona game looks and feels like for both players and fans. One of the most central figures in Flick's system is Lamine Yamal. To see how Yamal has become the face of the future of football, you have to check out this video right here.